Tensions between the U.S. and China are once again on edge, but there's also a flicker of hope. Because despite the latest round of threats, U.S. President Donald Trump is still expected to meet Chinese leader Xi Jinping in South Korea later this month.
But I don't know that we're going to have it, but I'm going to be there regardless, so I would assume we might have it.
The update came from U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who said both sides are still working to ease tensions, even after a chaotic week of tariff warnings and export controls. On October 9th, China announced a major expansion of its rare earth export controls. And in response, Trump on Friday threatened to raise tariffs on Chinese goods to triple digits. That sent global markets and U.S. China relations spiraling into uncertainty. But by October 13th, both Washington and Beijing began trying to calm the storm. Bessent told Fox Business Network that substantial communication had taken place over the weekend.
It was a miscalculation, but we are communicating now. I am confident that we can move forward.
He said staff-level meetings between the two countries will be held this week in Washington, on the sidelines of the World Bank and IMF annual gatherings. In his words, the 100% tariff does not have to happen. Bessent added that the relationship remains good and that lines of communication have reopened. He confirmed that President Trump's planned meeting with Xi Jinping in Korea, during the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit, is still on. The summit will be hosted by South Korea in late October, and tariffs will not go into effect until November 1st. On October 14th, China's Commerce Ministry confirmed that a working-level meeting had already taken place a day earlier. However, the ministry also cautioned that the U.S. cannot ask for talks while simultaneously threatening new restrictive measures. Over the weekend, both sides tried to shift blame for the renewed tensions. U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer accused China of deferring Washington's request for a phone call after its rare earths announcement, calling it a power grab. Meanwhile, Beijing criticized the U.S. for adding more Chinese companies to its trade blacklist and imposing new port fees on China-linked ships. Markets reacted sharply to the back and forth. Wall Street's main indexes closed up as much as 2.2% on Monday, after Bessent's reassurance that talks were still on track. Asian markets followed with a positive morning. But that optimism faded quickly when China announced sanctions on 5 U.S.-linked subsidiaries of South Korean shipbuilder Hanwha Ocean around noon local time. Stocks tumbled again, with fears that the trade conflict could now spread even wider. So while both Washington and Beijing are still talking, the tone remains tense. The next few weeks, leading up to the Trump-Xi meeting, could decide whether the world's two largest economies step back from confrontation or dive straight into another trade war. All eyes are now on Seoul. Because if this meeting goes ahead, it could either reset the U.S.-China relationship or mark the start of an even deeper global trade rift.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the U.S. will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.